Hello and welcome to another edition of our NAWBO Member Love Live and our Texas Women Mean Business podcast. I am joined today by Jennifer Chandler, who is the Managing Director and President of Bank of America Dallas and Head of Philanthropic Solutions. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. So happy to be with you today.
Absolutely. We're so excited. And we need to update. So we usually call these our NAWBO Member Love Live, but Bank of America is a corporate partner. So this is our corporate partner live, which we are very excited about. Tell me a little bit more about how you came to join the Bank of America team.
Well, I've been here almost 25 years, so I got to think to the back of my brain because it was a long time ago, but truly a blessing to be here, and it has been a great career, in particular in support of women. They've been phenomenal. So I was actually a high school teacher. I had graduated young and spoke Spanish, and as you know, in Texas, we need enough and more Spanish teachers. So I started with that, giving back, and absolutely loved it. But the reality was I was under an emergency certification and had to go back to school to get my teaching certificate. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to go back to school, why don't I try this business thing and get an MBA? And sure enough, I did. And 25 years later, I've been at Bank of America.
Wow, that is phenomenal. So do you feel like your role in Bank of America is particularly kind of catered to your passions, your, things that drive you? Walk me through kind of your day-to-day responsibilities at the bank.
Well, thank you for asking. And I actually have two roles at Bank of America. And to answer your question, I get to live those values and do a lot of that in both roles I have. But I'm the president for Dallas. We have 14,000 teammates. And in that capacity, I'm bringing together the different parts of the bank, everything from small business, where we work with many of your members, up to the investment bank. But in that role, we're also volunteering. So very pleased that I get to work with that group to do volunteer events in schools and food banks in the community. And then my primary role with the bank and my day job is leading the endowment foundation team. And in that capacity, we help people establish and manage nonprofits and large foundations. So we manage investments, but we also consult them on how to raise money, save money, and give back to the community. So very blessed. Not always the case. I've had a number of different roles, all of which I've loved. But I have to say I'm in a sweet spot right now where I really get to do a lot in philanthropy and work with a lot of incredible people.
Sounds super fulfilling. And you grew up in Dallas County. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
So what does it mean for you that you've, gotten to a point where you are building something and giving back to, your own hometown community in such a profound way?
It is really a blessing. And, being in Texas, it is just an incredible time of growth. So every day I wake up with gratitude that we have the economic growth that we have. And I just see the city transform. I'm sitting in our building downtown right now. But the other reality, and part of why I sit here and host meetings here, is we still have an economic divide. So we have a lot of wealth north, a lot of density, still have a lot of opportunity south. Well, I grew up on the south side of town. So I have a passion for helping Southern Dallas and that community. And just last night, I was with a very successful business owner that we work with, and he's on that side of town supporting the local high schools. So that was one of those 360 moments when you get to see people come out of those systems, really thrive, whether they're entrepreneurs, business owners, and then turn right back around and give back. So I get to see that every single day in the work with Bank of America. But it's a great place to be. And again, the growth in Texas is benefiting all of us.
Yeah. 100%. And we're based in San Antonio, and I think we see the same thing here where, a thriving downtown is good for everybody. And to have, support from national corporations like a Bank of America to commit to downtown and commit to every portion of Dallas and San Antonio and beyond is so vital just for the community to truly be able to reach its full potential. Walk me through, Bank of America has such a long-standing, culture of not only like volunteerism and stewardship, but also really a focus on women business owners. So walk me through a little bit more of the work that you guys do in that capacity.
Absolutely. And people may or may not know that we bank almost half of the United States households. So when you think about that, and that's not something we brag or speak highly about, it's more that we see that as a massive responsibility for the overall U.S. economy. And I will tell you, COVID was really eye-opening for me just to have so much of an understanding that small business plays in that economy. So we play a really proactive role in every individual we work with and do a lot to wrap around them. And first and foremost, it's capital, right? You know better than anyone that access to capital is key. So we try
Yeah.
to leverage our ecosystem to help with that. There's a number of things we've done over decades to support that. I know policies changed in the late 80s to help
Yeah.
underwrite loans. So of course we're doing that. If we can't provide the capital, we're making sure, again, through our ecosystem and CDFIs, that we're providing that as well. But I will be honest with you, where I see the most value add, it's having that partner. I was just with a very large client last night at an event we were hosting, and we've worked with them for decades and decades, someone very well known that you would know. But even that case, it was a huge relationship or a smaller one. What makes the difference is having a partner and a coach that you can call every single day and say, what can I do different to drive that cash flow? What can I do to improve my business? And again, leveraging the network that we have to coach, to be there along the way, to help build the balance sheet and encourage and support them along the journey. So again, access to capital, education, our research, and then again, our network, just to really to be there to support them along the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And since you have such a huge, part of your role being on the philanthropic side, I'd love to also kind of understand where you feel like, philanthropic giving and support and, being able to make an impact from a nonprofit perspective. Where does the business community and the nonprofit community collide? Where do you see that going in the next few years? Since that's so much of your day to day.
Well, and again, I'm glad you asked because we just launched our 10th edition of the study of philanthropy. So we do that research every 2 years with the Lilly School of Philanthropy. And it was really eye opening. And one of the most encouraging things was that volunteerism was back up. It's just a huge increase back post pandemic or pre pandemic levels. So when you think about philanthropy, it starts with volunteerism. That's the gateway to giving. So I already mentioned that I get to do that with Bank of America, right? I get out in the community and the various roles we play. So I think good and strong business leaders incorporate philanthropy in a lot of what they do. So getting your teammates, your colleagues, your employees out to volunteer, then we know the giving comes along with that as well. Secondly, we know that in many cases, you're going to retain your employees, you're going to give back. And we also see a lift in conscious consumerism. So a lot of small businesses have and large companies have decided to do give back programs, right? And to support others around them through that. And so we do see a lift in the study and that conscious consumerism as well. The next generation wants to shop and support someone that they know shares their values and is giving back. Lastly, and it's a little less exciting, but from a tax perspective and a planning perspective, there's a lot of reason to think ahead and think about that corporate foundation or that family foundation. So a little more tactical. And I get asked about that, but tax is never the number one reason, right? People give back, they give to what they genuinely care about and what their personal passion is. Even more so than the greatest need they may see in the community. It's all about what connects to them, what's important to them. So the beauty of how we work and what we do is we get to know these families, these business owners really closely. We get to know what they care about, what helped them along their own personal journey. And that's typically what they want to give back to. And then we play an important role in helping them do that. And of course, functionally from a tax perspective, but more importantly, I would say to help them live their values. In some cases, if they're retiring or selling a company, it gives them what they're going to focus on in that next chapter. But definitely seeing to directly answer your question, a massive lift just with the transfer of wealth. A lot of, if you think generationally, a lot of business owners are having to make that decision, whether to pass the company down to children or to sell. And so you do see a significant movement to philanthropy.
And particularly for women business owners, right? I mean, there's a huge shift of wealth to women in particular, be they business owners or legacy, inheritance and estate planning and things like that. It is so vital, I think, for more women to feel like they have the financial tools and knowledge to manage that. And again, women tend to have a heart for how can I leverage this for the better of the community versus just me, myself, and I. So I love that you're also a woman in a leadership role, guiding that as well. You mentioned earlier, 14,000 employees, under your direct, supervision. Not direct, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but for you, a lot of our members are managing one employee, two employees, three employees. What advice would you give them for as they grow, as they scale, how do you maintain that culture that you want to progress, whether it's, philanthropy or being driven and ambitious, whatever that workplace culture is? How do you maintain that, whether you have the 2 employees or 14,000?
Well, at Bank of America, culture is everything. And, in financial services, one would argue that it's somewhat of a commodity. You can go to any institution and get what you need. But I think what really sets us apart, and we're at our highest retention rate I've ever seen, and typically strong to begin with. So culture is everything. And we combat it a couple of ways. One, we have an incredible CEO in Brian Moynihan. I was just with him earlier this week. And immediately when he became CEO, he created kind of a one-pager that explains our priorities, who we are, and how we work together. And that gets us all speaking the same language. There's over 200,000 of us globally. But importantly, at the top of that page, he lists the question, what would you like the power to do? And it's a question. And the reason he did that is we can essentially do anything a client needs, right? We're a big institution. We have more patents than NASA. We're creating consistently. But we have to start by listening. So when you think about culture, it's getting everyone speaking the same language, focus on the same priorities, which is for us to best serve our clients and to ask them that question, what would you like the power to do, and to listen. He's also a CEO that listens himself. So as leaders, you'll see a lot of our team, and you got Sharon Miller right there in San Antonio, who's one of our best. And so our immediate leadership team is comprised of people who have worked their way up the institution, done the small things, understand how this organization works, and they're incredibly humble. So when you think about our style and our approach, whether you're managing one person or you're managing indirectly, to your point, I don't oversee 14,000 people. I've got a lot of matrix and dotted lines. So
Yeah.
Managed by influence. Well, we do that with a great culture. We wake up every morning and talk about delivering one company, collaborating to have an exceptional client experience. We want to make people feel great. We want to deliver an exceptional experience. So when you start with that outward focus, you collaborate, you've got that humility, it really comes together nicely. And I do think it's a secret sauce at Bank of America. The other thing in particular to women, I would say, and to our organization, we're not competing for jobs. There's enough for everybody to succeed in this organization. And I would argue whether you're a small or big organization, you've got to collaborate and work together.
Absolutely.
So you see people lifting each other up. I'm the beneficiary of that. Women, men across the entire organization, our 200,000 teammates collaborate, and they want to see all of us rise collectively. So we're competitive against the other firms. We're not competitive within. So that helps as well.
Yeah. I love that question. And I think that's something that we, can take away for any size organization. What would you like the power to do? Like, just help me understand what idea you have, what inkling you have, what change you want to make. Like, this is a safe space for you to express that, and then, run with it, go, do, achieve. Like that sense of empowerment is critical.
Exactly.
Very cool. So NAWBO has a very long-standing relationship with Bank of America, all the way from our DC national, team, all the way down to each of our local chapters, really across the country, and particularly here in Texas. In San Antonio, we have great relationships with the local leadership here. You have also been involved in the Dallas chapter. Walk me through kind of some of your, first impressions of the group, and why Bank of America chooses to be involved with NAWBO specifically.
Well, and to your point, I think ahead of my time, there was great collaboration. And I was trying to reflect on my first introduction to it, probably Sharon Miller being right there in San Antonio. We're so blessed that nationally she's leading the business bank now, and how incredible it has been to see that journey. But my most recent experience was probably the most impactful, that just blew me away. I was going in the morning. I was going to speak on a panel, and I talked a bit about my journey, and it made me reflect back on my mom, who was not necessarily entrepreneur technically, but entrepreneur in spirit, and the way she worked it. But what stood out was the energy in that room, the network of people really supporting one another. So we had phenomenal speakers that blew me away, and they were motivating in themselves. But then we stopped and we had some exercises around the table where we could work with one another. But it was positive reinforcement. It was encourage one another. So I had known NAWBO well. I'd seen and been to events, but That was a moment in time for me that the light bulb went off that there's something even more special here. It's not just the content and the forum you all are doing, but the
Mhm.
relationships I saw people build. And then I, of course, got to shop and get all kinds of goodies. So I love to personally have any excuse. I tell my husband I have to support, entrepreneurs and business.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I love
of
the
course.
marketplace. Keep doing that and promoting some of what you have. But it is a special organization. But uplifting more than anything, I would say, just I think everyone left that forum and that day like, I can do this. And
Yeah.
any business owner knows there's ups and downs. So you got to have that every single day. You got to get back in there and say, I can do it today. And that's the experience I had.
Mhm. Yeah. We're also, very, very fortunate here in Texas that all of our chapters are very active and very strong. And, we just recently, a few months ago, had an advocacy day at the Texas Capitol, went to Austin, met with lawmakers. And, I'm sure you're in some of those conversations as well, where it really does at a certain level of your career become how do we look at the policies that are being driven and the advocacy and the direction that some of these things trickle down and affect not just financial institutions but small businesses. And it's just, I think, wonderful that in Texas in particular, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, we all work together to really make sure, even just, most recently, the hub directory news coming out immediately, Dallas was responding and sending out information, and San Antonio is putting together resources. It's just that cross collaboration, because Texas is such a huge state and so much growth and innovation happening, is pretty essential and vital as well. What
And
would
if I
you
may
say?
add to that
Yeah,
and just comment,
please.
because I'm actually going to be chair for the Dallas Regional Chamber in 2027. And when you
Mm,
think of the Regional Chamber, you think Fortune 100, large
yeah,
companies. But to your point, a lot of the advocacy work, and we do the Austin fly-ins and speak to, on pro-business policy.
yeah.
But we are in lockstep with small business. I think sometimes people don't picture the bigger chambers as a partner in that, but we all see the value. And when you think of barriers like childcare, transportation, those barriers, those workforce challenges impact small business, they impact larger corporations. So
Yep.
we do see our role as an important one in being that voice with you. So I'm so glad you all are down
Mhm.
there as well when we're all saying the same thing down in Austin, across the
Yes.
Texas Triangle. It helps. But just do know that while we focus on the big, we're hyper focused and truly supportive of the business owners as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for being willing to advocate and go above and beyond in that capacity as well. So Bank of America, in terms of supporting women entrepreneurs, even here in San Antonio, we've seen, financial resources as far as education. We've seen leadership and mentorship programs. Walk me through a little bit more if women business owners are listening to this and they're wondering, well, what can Bank of America do for me, even if I'm not a 10, 15, $20 million a year business? Are there things like that that they can access at any level with Bank of America?
Absolutely. And you can check out our website and our Business Owners Hub. You get a lot of information there. And we value every single client. I cannot say that enough. I already mentioned the Southern sector here in Dallas. So, regardless of size, you're going to get the one on one experience you need through our small business bankers, our business bankers. And then there's a lot of education. So, even something as simple as better money habits. We often find the business owners are taking care of the business 24/7. And sometimes, I'm just going to say, sometimes they forget to take care of themselves. So
Yeah.
we're often that voice of reason to say, let's take a step back. Let's also focus on you. You are going to want to retire one day. So our Better Money Habits program is some of the basics you may need. And
Mhm.
then our small business bankers and business bankers are some of the best in the industry. And so I mentioned it earlier, but they're going to be a coach with you along the way, again, regardless of size. So those business bankers, you walk into any financial center, make an appointment. Again, look at our website. I think people are sometimes surprised that they're going to get that one-on-one attention. You just make an
Mhm.
appointment. And why do I say that? Because every business owner is unique. But
Mhm.
once you have that conversation, you build that one-on-one relationship. Again, they have tools and resources to look at industry averages, look at cash flow with you, look at the overall economic environment,
Mhm.
and coach business owners along the way. So a lot of education, and I mentioned earlier our ecosystem, right? So whether it's our balance sheet or the CDFIs we support, I know we've made a major commitment in San Antonio with the Lift Fund and others. So we
Mhm.
are giving to those efforts as well. But it's going to be those bankers that can help connect you along the way and be that coach along the journey. Lastly, I already mentioned we bank close to 50% of U.S. households between the consumer channel, the small business.
Wow.
We have something called the Bank of America Institute. And you may, if you watch CNBC like I do, right, often hear our leader of that group, Liz Everett, will be on, and she's sharing that information. We do that because we want people in the community to know, okay, we're seeing a lift in travel, right? The Fed lowered rates this week. What does that mean? Well, the market's had an all-time high yesterday. That's great. But what does it mean if I have a business in clothing or retail, or I'm a food service restaurant owner? Well, our data is going to tell you, hey, services is back on the rise. People are still going to restaurants, and we can see it almost on a daily basis. We release it a little less frequently, across the months and weeks when we can see a trend. But we also use that to say, hey, that might be a good area for you. Like we're going to see a lift in that. We're bullish in that particular area. So we want to share as much information as we can to inform business owners. We want to be that coach, but very importantly, make sure that they're taking care of themselves personally as well.
Yeah. So this next question is a little bit self-serving from a NAWBO San Antonio standpoint, but what would you say to another, corporation, be it financial or, any larger entity who looks at sponsoring different organizations? What would you say to them about sponsoring something like NAWBO San Antonio and maybe just, women business or owner organizations in general? What is that? A lot of times we hear that conversation around, well, what's going to be the ROI? What's going to be the ROI?
Right.
And obviously every corporation, big and small, is watching their dollars and where they put their sponsorships. But what would you say to them if they're considering either NAWBO or any women business owner organization?
It's a great question to ask. And I always remind people, we have to say no more than we say yes. You can imagine, as big as we are, how many sponsorship requests, how many nonprofit requests come across our desk every single day. And would I love to personally say yes to every single one of them? Absolutely. They have great intention. But you raised a really good question. We are highly selective. As big as we are, we do not do a ton of these types of sponsorships and partnerships. So we're looking for a few things, and NAWBO's come through, right? We're looking for ROI. What's that return on the investment? Is it a forum where we can actually contribute and help? And we believe we can through the expertise we have. I'm one of the speakers. The better speakers are the business bankers in this every single day. As you know, we bring them out. So we find it mutually beneficial. We're also looking for partnerships, right? So the event I mentioned last night, that was actually with the Dallas Cowboys. It's public that we're the bank of the Dallas Cowboys. I talk a lot about that type of partnership, and it has been for decades. So we plan events together. We bring the right people around the table that we think everybody would benefit from. So NAWBO's been very great to work with us to do the events that we know resonate, the events that we think are important to the community. So the ROI is there. Again, in my opinion, it's great return because, again, we're in that ecosystem. As many as we bank, we're not in front of every entrepreneur. We're not in front of every business owner. And sometimes they know who we are, but not all that we can do in small businesses support them, right? So it's really well run. I think y'all are efficient too. I'll be honest. We look at spend and efficiency. Y'all meet all of that in an incredible way. You're lean and do it the right way. You mirror our values. And then lastly, we know, and just look at the stats across the state of Texas, while so many Fortune 100 and 500 companies are moving to Texas in a rapid way, as you know better than anyone, the most important aspect of this state, this community, is still driven by the small business and business owners. So we never take that for granted, and we want to keep that way. We think that makes our communities more enriched. So it's been a great value for us.
Yeah. Well, and you make a great point too. That's a good lesson for any organization on the opposite side of that relationship to understand is you want that partnership. What ability to contribute can you give me instead of just, hey, please write a check and then you'll never hear from us again.
Right.
Let's make sure that we're actually finding ways for you to get involved that makes sense for you and for your goals. So I think Bank of America does a fabulous job of stepping in to actually get involved. And can we lead a program? Can we help set up, a new mentorship program? All of those different things where it's extra, woman power for us to be able to tap into, and we're so appreciative of that. So thank you.
The other thing, if I may just add, I mentioned that we listen and we ask the question power too. So we go into those forums also listening, right? And the world changes. we needed during COVID is different than what we need now. So while we're speaking, we're providing content, we're listening to hear what's the latest thing. What is the barrier? Is it access to capital? Is it we talk a lot about workforce, and we do a lot with higher ed institutions to train the workforce of the future. So knowing I need more manufacturers, I need more CPAs, we put that information to work as well. And lastly, related to business, is we have a homeownership grant where we actually pay the closing costs and the down payment for homes. It is not repaid. And I share that with you because across the state, maybe it's not the business owner, maybe they're well established, right? But who do they care about most? It's the 2 to 3, 5, 20 people that work on their team that they want to retain. And so I went back to barriers like childcare and transportation. Well, if we can get them in a home within a 5 to 10 mile radius of your small business, the retention, they will stay there for, ever. So we do a lot of work, and anyone who has a question on that can go to any one of our financial centers. And I get asked, why do we do that? Because we want the, economy to thrive. We promote economic mobility, and we believe being in a home is going to help you do that. And going through the employer, we know they have income, we know they have a job. So we love to share that program as well. So you don't think of the homeownership necessarily in that business or entrepreneur space, but it really does matter. And we've got story after story where that's helped small businesses.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so rewarding as well as a business owner to feel like I've been able to provide a living for someone else and be able to buy a home, be able to take a maternity leave, be able to that is so rewarding. And I love that you could have somebody like Bank of America come alongside you and make that even easier. So, all right. Final thoughts here, Jennifer. We're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire. So I would love for you to tell me maybe a book or a podcast that you recommend right now. Obviously, all of us at the holidays have so much extra time to read a book and listen to a podcast. So tell us.
This is my favorite podcast. But no, I love to read, and there's so many. And many of these you'll already know, but anything to me, Atomic Habits or Good to Great. I'm very big into work ethic. You come in every single day and you work hard. Little things every single day move the aisle. But the reason I think about that in this context is I mentioned it earlier. As business owners, you have your ups and your downs. You're going to have a really good day, and then you're going to have a challenging day. But with things like Atomic Habits or Good to Great, you've got that playbook, that discipline that every single day, I'm going to come in and do these 4 things that are going to advance the ball. And then over time and time again, it comes through and creates success. So big fans of those. And there's another one called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You, but same kind of message. You got to work hard. So that one as well.
Okay, fabulous. That's one I have not read yet, so I will check that one out. And then finally, maybe a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self. A lot of our NAWBO, we have our high school mentorship program. We have a program for college students looking to get involved as well. Walk us through, if you were speaking to your younger self, maybe in those stages, what advice would you give yourself?
I think work smarter, not harder. I just mentioned I'm a hard worker, right? You come in, you go after it every single day. But the older you get, the more wise you know to work on the right things, right? It's easy to come in and react and do the easy things or do what someone else asks you to do. But the more you work smarter versus harder, what's going to be the thing that's going to advance that ball for you? What's going to be the thing that advances the ball for the company? So I tend to write those things down, come in the morning, try to make sure I do those things first.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, any final thoughts? Would you be so kind as to tell us? I'm sure most of us, pass a Bank of America on our, drives around the cities that we live in most days. But if people are interested in learning more about Bank of America or how they can get involved in some of these programs that you've mentioned today, fill us in on some of those details.
First and foremost, yes, walk into a financial center. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that we are there to support you and handhold you, but we are high tech, high touch, and you can make an appointment on your phone. Follow us on social, and we're out there telling the good story, and things evolve. So what we offer today may change. We continue to add, we continue to increase our minimum wage. We just went to $25. So you got to follow us because we're going to keep doing innovative things through social and the news, and then appointments, and of course our website. And again, if you just search Bank of America entrepreneurs or small business, you're going to see some resources there and that home grant I mentioned. But you have to keep an eye because again, we're going to keep investing in this space because we believe in it.
Yep. Got to be moving fast in today's economy for sure. So fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us. It's truly been an honor, and I am so appreciative. All of us at NAWBO San Antonio are so appreciative, and really every Texas chapter of Bank of America's support. So thank you for your time today, and thank you for your partnership.